What's going on, guys? MLS Aces Podcast, episode 239. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. Very fun episode this week, even though it is a topic of covering unfortunate news, unfortunate results for the USMNT in the World Cup. Unfortunately, obviously, if you're listening to this or watching this, you know the result against the Netherlands. The US lost 3-1 to the Netherlands. Sloppy performance, obviously our worst performance of the World Cup, but I dive into that later on in this podcast with my guest, Jeff Attinella. If you guys don't know, which again, you follow MLS, you follow US soccer, you guys should know who Jeff Attinella is. But former Portland Timbers, Tampa Bay Rowdies, Real Salt Lake, and a few other stops in between. Goalkeeper, now retired, enjoying his life in Tampa Bay. But Jeff and I kind of break down the Netherlands game. We break down what the tournament meant for the USMNT. We kind of look back at some of the previous group stage games as well, but also looking forward to the future, what really, we want to see, what he wants to see, kind of leading into 2026 and everything like that. It was a great conversation with Jeff. Jeff, thank you so much for hopping on and talking with me. It was fun. Again, it was fun to talk about just soccer in general. Obviously, the result of the USMNT at the World Cup, not fun. You guys will hear a little bit more of my opinion then, but I think just to kind of speak high level to it, I think the World Cup was a success for the USMNT. I think making it out of the group was a must, and I've said it plenty of times on this podcast and others. For this to be a successful World Cup, we needed to make it out of the group. We did that. We did it pretty well, getting a win against the team we should have got a win against, drawing a team in England that many wrote us off against, and we proved big. And then I think the Wales game was maybe the quote unquote worst group stage result. Should have maybe got a win there, but we made it out of the group and we did what we had to. The Netherlands game was tough. We should have been more competitive in that game. I still do believe that was a game the U.S. could have won. It was just kind of tired legs at that point. But again, Jeff and I talk about that in the second half of this podcast. And if you guys have listened to this podcast before, watched this podcast before, you guys know what's about to come. I'm about to run through some Major League Soccer news because it is an MLS podcast. It is the MLS offseason and moves are happening, and moves are definitely happening for one club. And maybe not the best of moves, but they're happening. CF Montreal, not only the new thing coming into the club with the new logo heading into 2023, but they are going to have a bunch of new players heading into 2023 as well, and the new manager. So the news breaking today that CF Montreal allowing now former manager, coach of the year finalist last year, Wilfried Nancy, to leave the club to be the next manager of the Columbus Crew. Congratulations to the Columbus Crew. The Nancy era is there. I think he is the seventh manager in their history. And to be honest, if he brings along that 3-4-2-1 that, saw a lot of success up north in Montreal, then I think Columbus has the talent, has the front office, and has the pieces to be uber successful in that. Columbus could be one to watch out for in the next year or two. And it's, they're not that far removed from an MLS Cup victory as well. So Columbus could be fun. Columbus is going to be fun. I really do believe that Nancy was the best of available head coach out on the MLS market right now, and Columbus got a good one. So I'm excited for them. I'm excited for that organization because they're going to be a ton of fun. They were a ton of fun to watch last year underneath, Caleb Porter and kind of the ugliness that was surrounded around that. Now you get a fun, exciting, quote unquote, still new manager, right? Nancy is still figuring out how to be a manager. He's only a few years into this thing. So, there's a lot of fun things coming to Columbus. I can't wait to see Cucho and Lucas Zelarayan and all these guys absolutely ball out underneath Nancy. We'll see what the roster build continues to look like for them in this offseason. I think the players that he brings in and the players that this Columbus team signs is going to be indicative of definitely how they plan on playing. If the 3-4-2-1 sticks, if it's going to be maybe something more of a traditional 4-3-3 or whatever it may be, but we'll see how that goes. Columbus hasn't made any announcements on players, just Nancy right now, but turning things back to Montreal, Nancy obviously gone, so they are the lone MLS club without a head coach right now, and we'll hear the rumors and we'll see who is gonna take over up in Montreal. But let's talk about a few more losses for this club. They lost, not lost, right? They made the decision. They sold starting right wing back Alistair Johnston to Scottish Premier League legendary global club Celtic. They are going to make roughly $3.2 million in this deal for Johnston. $350,000 is going to go to Nashville SC because they had a sell-on fee there. This is all reported by Tom Bogert. Obviously, this isn't brand new news, but it's just kind of news that adds to my point here of obviously Djordje Mihailovic when he got sold a few months ago to AZ Alkmaar in the Eredivisie for his $6 million deal. Montreal is roughly going to take 5.5 million of that home for the transfer. Roughly 600,000 is going to go to Chicago for their sell-on fee there. And then they recently, this is newer news, not the Djordje news, but they recently sold attacking midfielder Ismael Kone to English Championship club Watford. Tom Bogert reporting this deal falling between $8 to $10 million. That was the closest thing I saw to an exact number. So if you're really looking at this, Montreal, they lost the head coach. They lost 3 starters. Obviously, Victor Wanyama's gone as well, but they've brought in close to 17 to $19 million. Again, kind of really depending on where that Kone deal falls. 17 to $19 million coming into the club with those 3 players being sold. This is going to be a different Montreal club we're going to see in 2023. This is going to be a less successful club. And I hate to say it, but Montreal is not going to be as good as they were this year. They were one of the more dominant clubs in 2022. In 2023, it's going to be a different story. Doesn't mean that the front office isn't building in the right direction. Doesn't mean the front office and the club is doing things poorly. I think getting the money that you can for these key players that you brought in and brought you success. Montreal has a bunch of young talent coming up, and I'm excited to see where they put that money, if they put it back into the academy, if they bring in maybe a few stars to kind of build around what they do currently have, because they do currently have a lot of very talented players and a Joel Waterman and a Sam Piet. Obviously, Kai Kamara is still banging it in at 40 years old. So I'm excited to see kind of what this offseason continues to look like for Montreal, because they still might be selling a few more players. They have a bunch of money. Let's see Montreal kind of build that back up. I would love a Didier Drogba-esque signing, for them again in their club's history. But let's just see. It's a lot of transition. It's a lot going on. I like what Montreal is doing. When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, I just want to see them put that money and rebuild, continuing in the right direction. And then obviously back to the Crew news, I think they're doing right stuff with bringing in Wilfried Nancy as well. That's not breaking any minds there. That's just me hopping on the Nancy bandwagon of I think he's a really good head coach, and I think Columbus is a great spot for a good head coach. Let's dive into, I think, arguably the next biggest talking point of the past week and a half of MLS news. Portland Timbers, they've made their club record signing for now former FC Midtjylland attacking midfielder Evander. I haven't gotten an exact pronunciation there. I will get it down soon, but this is a $10 million fee for Evander. I'm going to go with Evander for this podcast until I get corrected. But it's a $10 million fee. Like I said, that is the largest club record signing for the Timbers. It's among one of the largest in league history as well. I'm not exactly sure where it stands, but it's one of the highest for bringing in a player. Evander right now is currently the Europa League assist leader. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not going to sit here and say that means he's a world-class player. But clearly it means he has a lot of talent. I think we can safely assume that and safely say that. Kind of just looking at the rough numbers at a high level, 93 goals plus assists in his 201 career games between Denmark and between the Brazilian top flight. He is a Danish Super League champion. He is a 2-time Danish Cup champion, and he's only 24 years old. This is a huge signing, especially after the press conference that came out today with him, where he said that some people may look at this move to Major League Soccer as a downward fall, quote unquote. He said that he feels like he can accomplish great things in Major League Soccer and with the Portland Timbers, and this could be a nice big step for him in his career. And kind of hearing that makes me love him, right? Like, this dude's an MLS guy. This dude's a supporter of the league. This dude knows that he can build into bigger things in his career. I would love to see a Diego Valeri-esque signing here, right? A number 10 coming in. He's going to be the face of the team for years to come, and maybe he retires with the team, or he becomes a club legend. I'd love to see it, right? I think Portland does have a lot of good young pieces, and Evander could be maybe the linchpin to that, to kind of bring it all together, right? And we know in Major League Soccer, an attacking number 10 is not what makes you an MLS Cup champion, but can really make the difference in becoming a major MLS Cup champion, right? You look at the best teams, and they have all-star number 10s. You look at Philadelphia Union with Daniel Gazdag, right? Like, that's just that's a clear example. So I really do like this move. This move's exciting. This move's fun, right? Because Evander's going to come in and he's going to be flashy and he's going to be good. And even if it takes him a little bit to get his feet under him, he's going to be a dude that's going to make an instant impact for Major League Soccer and for the Portland Timbers. So I like this move. I'm excited to see kind of how this fits with Jimmy Chara and with Sebastian Blanco and Santiago Moreno and a lot of other guys on this team. I do think the Timbers have some moves still to make this offseason. Obviously, the big question marks around Eric Williamson. We'll see the striker situation. I'm not completely sold on their striker situation. Maybe a young center back or two to kind of come in and help out that back line. But the Timbers seem to be slowly moving in the right direction. I just hope Evander is the first move of many to kind of bring the Timbers back to their dominant form that we're used to seeing them in Major League Soccer. Next, I kind of want to dive into the Philadelphia Union acquiring midfielder Andres Perea from Orlando City. They got him for $750,000 in general allocation money, another $100,000 in GAM that can be earned in incentives for Orlando City. Plus, there's going to be a sell-on fee. This is the type of move, and it's the reason why Philadelphia is just on top of the league with the LAFCs of the world, because Philly know that in 2023, they have, I think it's roughly 50 games that they have to play between CCL, Leagues Cup, MLS regular season, US Open Cup, whatever the postseason may potentially look like for them, and on and on. This isn't a move to say, hey, we're bringing in Perea because we're selling McGlynn or Flock. This is a move because you need minutes from guys. Alejandro Bedoya cannot play 50 games for you. You know that you need to rely on quality talent to eat up minutes for you, whether it's in a Leagues Cup match, whether it's in an Open Cup semifinal, whether it's in a CCL final, whatever that may look like. You know that you need to bring in depth, and MLS is now trending towards the top tier clubs in the league have 2-3 players at each position that could realistically start for you in an MLS Week 14 game, or a CCL quarterfinal, or a US Open Cup quarterfinal, or whatever it may be, right? So this is Philadelphia just, I think, continuing to cement themselves atop of the league. Also, we know how Jim Curtin works with young players. We know how he does with, young USMNT products. I know Perea's Colombian born, but obviously he has the one cap for the USMNT. I don't know if he's USMNT quality or level at this point, but it's worked well, right? Jim Curtin's worked with Brendan Aronson, Paxton Aronson, Leon Flack, Jack McGlynn. He's worked with a lot of super young, talented American players, and maybe Jim Curtin brings the best out of Andres Perea. He brought the best out of Julian Carranza when he came over from Miami. So why not Perea, who's still very young, we see the talent. And it was a crowded Orlando City midfield with a lot of guys kind of playing similar roles. So I really do like this move from multiple points of view for Perea, for Philly. I think Orlando got a good chunk of money back as well. So this seems to be just a win-win for all around, for sure. I want to dive into kind of sticking with Orlando, I guess. So former Orlando City left back Joao Moutinho, he signed on a free to Serie A club Spezia. Really want to just kind of keep this short. I think Orlando City lost out on an opportunity to make good money. MLS is not a league of loads and loads of talented fullbacks, whether it's left back or right back, wing back, whatever you want to call it, right? Joao Moutinho was one of the best left backs in Major League Soccer, and Obviously, they ran out his contract because they felt like they put together a winning squad, and yes, they won US Open Cup last year, and I'm happy for the Orlando City fans out there, but I feel like they kind of fumbled the bag. I really feel like you could have sold Joao Moutinho maybe in the summer, or you could have sold him a year ago, made a bunch of money, because there has been interest around Moutinho, and now he's gone to a top 5 league in the world. Yes, Spezia isn't the top of the Serie A, but they're still in the Serie A, and you could have probably gotten a nice transfer fee for Joao Moutinho, maybe a sell on, whatever that may be. So I feel like they fumbled it. Excuse me, almost like they fumbled the Kyle Larin deal a few years ago, and now we've seen where Kyle Larin's gone, and imagine they had a sell-on fee for Kyle Larin, right? It's just I do think the Orlando City front office makes their mistakes, and I feel like letting Joao Moutinho go on a free was just another mistake in my opinion there. The last kind of major deal I want to talk through at a little bit of length is Derrick Etienne Jr. Obviously, he was a free agent this year. He makes the decision to go sign with Atlanta United, which I absolutely love, right? Atlanta United, they're on the verge of some major things, and I don't even know if I talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it happened, but Garth Lagerway leaving Seattle and taking over everything in Atlanta is the move of the MLS offseason this year, next year, and 5 more years after that. Literally, I think I called it on social media the move of the decade, Garth Lagerway going to Atlanta United, because it's true. Garth Lagerway's track record of success, whether it's at RSL, Seattle, now moving to Atlanta, his ability to manipulate an MLS roster, his ability to build an MLS championship roster, a CCL championship roster, mixed with Arthur Blank's motivation to win at whatever sport he is the owner of a team of, mixed with just the amount of money that Atlanta United will throw into players. Obviously, we've seen league record signings 2-3 times now from Atlanta. So you combined all of that, and Atlanta United could be the absolute face of Major League Soccer once again. I will argue they were, whatever it was, 2016, 2017, 2018, that kind of stretch. I think Atlanta United might be one of the best teams in Major League Soccer, if not the best team in Major League Soccer, over the next decade or so, right? Like, you'll see Garth Lagerway slowly building this roster. Bringing in a guy like Derrick Etienne Jr. just, to me, seems like a move that is building towards just an absolute stellar MLS roster. Not Derrick Etienne Jr. is not going to score you 30 goals in a season or anything like that, and I'm not saying that, but if he is the absolute floor of your bench, which I doubt he is going to be. I think Derrick Etienne Jr. is a starter and or first guy off the bench for any club in Major League Soccer. But if he is the absolute bottom that you're bringing in, then you have a super talented side, a super talented squad. Derrick has won in Major League Soccer. He has won in North America. He has won all over. I think bringing that into a club, a franchise that wants to get back to its winning ways is absolutely key. If you have him starting with Thiago Almada, Luis Araujo, Marcelino Moreno, Brooks Lennon, Andrew Gutman, Emerson Hyman when he's coming back. Plus, obviously they're figuring out the Josef Martinez situation and whatever type of striker they bring in to replace Josef. This Atlanta United attack in 2023 alone, forget about past 2023 alone, could be one of the best in the league, I personally think. So we'll see where things land, but I love Derrick Etienne going to Atlanta. I think that's a baller move. Friend of the pod too. So Derrick, happy for you, my guy. Just want to kind of run through quickly some of the other signings around Major League Soccer. I'm not going to talk about any of these, but New England Revolution signed striker Bobby Wood on a free deal after they selected him in the second round of the waiver draft. Sporting Kansas City, they re-signed Graham Zusi, Roger Espinoza, and Andreu Fontas. And then lastly, Clint Irwin. He leaves Colorado on through free agency and signs with Minnesota, pretty much probably filling in for Tyler Miller as backup goalkeeper to Dean St. Clair. But that's really it, guys, as far as MLS news. I've gone through as much MLS news that I could possibly talk about, but let's get back into wrapping up the World Cup for the USMNT. Please sit back, enjoy my conversation, my interview with Jeff Attinella. Again, former Portland Timbers, former RSL, former Tampa Bay Rowdies, and a few other clubs in between. He is a champion. He is an award winner. The dude was an absolute baller as a player. Now listen to the minds educate you about the USMNT and this World Cup performance. Thank you guys, and talk to you next week. We are back with another episode of the MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and this week I am joined by an MLS is Back tournament champion, an NASL Soccer Bowl champion. That one's a new one to the podcast. A one-time NASL Goalkeeper of the Year, Jeff Attinella. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me. Well, it's funny because I'm big on like going through my old boxes of stuff right now, and we won that MLS Back tournament, and I have 2 championship masks, and I'm like, I have 2 of these, and in theory, they're probably the most valuable piece of, like any memorabilia, because hopefully we never have a tournament like that again, and I have 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I'm in possession of something I think pretty valuable in the MLS circles, or at least like 10 years from now, it might be a serious collector's item.
I mean, look, like 2020, 2021, the price of like, I don't know, like Pokemon cards went up to everything because like you can't get them anymore. So maybe these rare titles, they're gonna be valuable.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you see it on eBay, just know that like something's probably gone wrong for me. And if you really want to get one of these masks, then you know where to get them.
Well, Jeff, you are currently retired, right? You retired. Congratulations. And I know you're doing a lot of fun stuff. I know if anything happens in Tampa Bay sports, I'm turning to your Twitter just because you seem like the biggest Tampa Bay sports fan out there. First thing I want to ask is obviously like the soccer scene in Tampa Bay. I know the Rowdies, they're big down there, but from someone who, is listening to this, watching this, who may not be the biggest proponent of, kind of lower division soccer in the US or, anything outside of their local team, what is the Tampa Bay Rowdies and kind of just the soccer scene in Tampa Bay?
It's been growing, it's been interesting for me because obviously I follow, I grew up in Tampa. So like cheering for the sports teams and being a fan of Tampa sports, that's something that's always been my entire life. And it was just something that kept me close to home. Obviously when I was traveling, playing for Salt Lake, playing for Portland, cheering for Tampa teams is something that kept me really connected to the city. And I always knew that this was going to be the place that I ended up. And it's funny because when I played for the Rowdies, it was like square one, maybe square two of the development of the Tampa Bay Rowdies, right? Like they have an awesome stadium. It's a stadium down on the water in St. Petersburg. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stadium. The location's amazing. Right next to a marina, right on the water, really cool stuff. But when I was playing, it was still kind of being used as a minor league baseball stadium. So the stadium like would flood a ton. You still had the pitcher's mound, right? Like there was still the bump from the pitcher's mound, and they were like doing everything that they can to cover the dirt still, to fit in the soccer season. Yeah. And I hadn't been back in years. Once I finished playing, I hadn't been back to a game since I just moved home. And then this past year, they had a 10-year reunion for our championship. And the facility is just gorgeous. Now it's like they added in bleachers on the side. It's completely soccer specific. And the crowds, they get a decent crowd. And, it's something that's continuing to grow in this city, which I think is something you're seeing all around the country. Yeah. And now, now that they have the academy system, we don't necessarily have an MLS affiliate, but there's about 3 or 4 different academies just in the Tampa Bay area that are in this MLS Next program. And, pretty much every kid that my kids go to school with, it's, they're playing soccer. So it's something that continues to grow. It's something that continues to develop. And I've gotten to know the ownership of the Rowdies pretty well. And they're investing, they're putting in courts. They're putting in futsal courts. They're doing different things in the community to keep trying to grow the game. And, it might not be the MLS, but it's something that I think that the community is really getting around. And it's something for all these kids to go watch. And, the facilities truly are second to none. So it's been pretty cool to see.
And what also helps is like the Rowdies win. The Rowdies are a successful team. Like they do well. So, winning brings fans. Winning brings just a fun environment to the game. So I'm glad to see that. And I'm glad to hear, just kind of, again, outside of my local area, outside of other people's local areas, like you just hear what's going on in different communities. And I think it's awesome to see. It's awesome going on with what's going on with the World Cup 2026 approaching and everything like that. And it's only hopefully going to grow. But what else is going on? What's going on for you personally after, your retirement and everything like that? What are you getting into outside of, kindergarten drop off?
Yeah. So some of the fun stuff I've been doing in the soccer world, I've done some commentating, and I've done a little bit of scouting for MLS and the MLS Next program and just kind of doing a little bit of evaluating of what's going on in the youth system.
Mm-hmm.
But, my main day to day is my family has a company called Smack Apparel, which is part of the reason why I felt, I dealt with a lot of injuries, which is the reason I retired, but I knew that I had someplace pretty safe to land. It's a company, we do funny smack talking shirts for the entire country, different sports teams, different fan bases. Just this past week, this is why I'm so tired right now. You're getting me at a tired moment. We had a shirt go viral because all the Jets players were wearing one of our shirts when they were boarding the plane, and we just try to make fun gear for different sports. And we had a couple things going for U.S. soccer, but now unfortunately, since they're knocked out, it hasn't gone as well. And then one of the cooler things I'm doing now, one of my new endeavors is I've teamed up with a glove company called Renegade Goalkeeper, and we're coming out with new models and trying to do different things and adjusting to what the customers are asking for. And it's just a cool group. It's something that, for me, it's cool to team up with a company that is a little bit more of a, unknown company that we're trying to grow and trying to build, because that's what I'm all about. I love trying to, put my voice behind things that I really believe in, and they make a good product. So if you're a goalkeeper, I appreciate the chance to shout this out. But if you're a goalkeeper, man, check us out. It's called Renegade Goalkeeper. It's pretty cool.
Okay, Renegade Goalkeeper, Smack Apparel. I'm a Jets fan, so which shirt was
Did you see it?
I did. I mean, I might have saw it. I just maybe didn't make the connection. Which shirt was it?
The Mike White shirt. The Mike White.
Okay. I didn't know that was your shirt. That's absolutely
Dude,
sick.
you're a Jets fan. I got to send you one. No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm about 10 minutes from the stadium right now from MetLife. But yeah, no, that's okay. Like, it's, again, weird connections that I absolutely love, that I just didn't make the connection that it was your shirt. I love that.
We got to drop you one. And yeah, that shirt's been going nuts. It's been cool. People love this guy, Mike White, man. It's cool.
I love him. I mean, look, after the whole Zach Wilson off season, I thought I was going to be into Zach Wilson hard this year, but no, Mike effing White,
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what, there's nothing like New York fans that get behind someone that has one good game, though. I'll tell you that.
That's it. I mean, look, I'm a Mets fan. Bartolo Colon, we got behind just because he hit a home run in San Diego. That's it. That's it. So
everybody's a second coming with New York fans.
Exactly. Just we want to be relevant, even though we're not, and it's true at the end of the day.
That's funny.
But okay, let's dive into some soccer talk. Obviously, we're talking about the USMNT mainly on this podcast right now. Heartbreaking, upsetting loss against the Netherlands, 3-1 in the round of 16. It was a pretty decent group stage, I think. I think maybe the only game you wish you kind of had back was that Wales performance. But the 3-1 loss, I guess I'll start super general and then we'll kind of talk about specific moments. But you were watching the game's over. What is your immediate thought about, kind of the overall performance and then kind of what you're looking back at this group with?
My initial thoughts during the game, as it was kind of unfolding and just kind of the way everything played out, was that they kind of came in, I felt like, with a better plan, or at least, like, if it wasn't a better plan, it was something to counter what we were going to do. Because I think that by the time we got to Netherlands, and if you had been paying attention to the way that we played, we were going to do the same thing that we've been doing. We weren't going to change our style. We weren't going to change our philosophy. And, you've seen that with Greg in the past with Columbus. He has a style of soccer that he loves to play. And I think that we are very consistent with how we did that through qualifiers and then through the World Cup as well. And I think that type of system works to a point. But then once you run into somebody that is comfortable giving away possession or not really caring if they have the ball, and just coming up and saying, you know what, you guys can keep the ball all you want. We're going to stay in this block. We're going to stay sound defensively, and we're going to catch you on the counter when you make a mistake or make a bad pass.
Yeah.
And they have the dudes, right? They have dudes that can put the ball in the net if they get one opportunity. And that's exactly what happened. So in my mind, it was Netherlands came out with a really solid game plan to play against the U.S. And at the end of the day, they had guys that could put the ball in the back of the net when all they needed was a little bit of space and one opportunity. And that's kind of a recipe for disaster if you're playing against a team that, if you're a team that is only keeping possession and only wants to keep possession and, passes the ball a million times. If you're not dangerous and if you don't score your chances, then the other team's going to catch you. And that's exactly what happened.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you, right? Like, when I was looking back at the game and kind of thinking of it as a high level, it was mainly like the U.S., I think we saw this across the group stage as well. The U.S. didn't take advantage of opportunities, that early Christian Pulisic opportunity. Like, it sucks. Maybe he thought he was offsides and he just kind of took a smack at it. But, like, you go up 1-0 in first 2 minutes of the game, that kind of changes the mentality of the game, in my opinion. Obviously, there's plenty of other chances that the U.S. just kind of failed to convert. And I think, again, that was maybe a theme of this World Cup for us, where, the Netherlands, they have the quality of, if you give them a chance, you give them an opportunity, they're going to score. Tyler Adams doesn't track back enough on the first goal. And, Memphis Depay is going to put away a goal. It's just, it is what it is. And I think it was just small mistakes that led to us kind of getting ultimately knocked out of this tournament. When you look back at this, right, do you think this is a successful World Cup for the USMNT? Personally, coming into the tournament, I said if we make it out of the group, we show some good performances, I think it's a success making it to the round of 16, but maybe I'm being too lenient, maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know. What's your opinion?
Sorry, excuse me. You can kind of look at that. You can kind of look at that one of two ways, right? I think that getting out of the group was a necessity, right? Like, they had to get out of the group. That was a must. It was an easy group to be, if we're being honest, it was one of the easier groups. US had to get out of that group. And then the thought process is, once you get to the round of 16, you're kind of playing with house money. So I think that in terms of getting out of the group, getting to the game versus Netherlands, getting to the round of 16s. I mean, we just watched Spain get bounced. You know what I mean? Like, teams can lose in the round of 16 all the time. The thing that I think is a little bit frustrating is when you go back and look at that group play, right? You talk about Tyler Adams not tracking back. You talk about these guys. They had to be, I mean, they were tired, right?
Oh, 100%.
You look back at that group play, and I think the group and the way that the games laid up were so favorable that you get that result versus Wales, right? If you're able to get the win, or even with the tie, now that you're looking back at it, should we have invested so much in that England game when it really didn't matter?
Yeah.
And then you're talking about adding another 90 minutes. So that I would have been nice to see. I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? Like, everybody in the entire country wanted us to go for it against England.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that.
I was drunk at a bar, on top of the bar stool, having fun with it,
Same here, we're chanting, it's called soccer. We're doing all the things that, get people fired up.
Yeah.
But if, in hindsight, I think that the U.S. did a good job of planting their flag as, hey, we could play. You know what I mean? We're not the U.S. of old. We're going to try to get the ball. We're going to play. We have special players on the field. And I think that the message was, we want to prove that. We want to prove that we could play with anybody.
Yeah.
When you look at it in hindsight and you look at it from a tournament perspective, if you're trying to do what is best to advance in the tournament and win the tournament, you're not playing your best players versus England. You know what I mean? You don't care as much. You're setting yourself up for the Iran game, and you're setting yourself up for the quarterfinal, or for the round of 16. So I'm happy with how the U.S. did, and they made it out of the group. I think that the talent that we have, and then the young players and the experience that everybody just gained in this World Cup, is going to carry us so far in the next round. But for me, it's just a little bit disappointing, because I really think we had a group that could have beaten Netherlands and advanced in this tournament if we handled things a little bit differently in the group play, and we weren't so in the moment, and we were looking a little bit more forward to the round of 16 and getting yourself set up for that. Because at the end of the day, whether we tie England, lose to England, whatever, if the results were all the same and we beat Iran, we're still playing the Netherlands no matter what. So it's a little bit of both, if I'm being completely honest. At least that's the way that I look at it.
No,
I felt like the group had a lot of potential to beat a team like the Netherlands, because I think that the Netherlands are a team that, we can run with, that we could be on the field with, especially with the young group that we have.
I agree. I thought we could have beat the Netherlands. I thought it was it was going to be a tough game, maybe the toughest game of the tournament for us, but I thought we could have done it at the end of the day. And Tyler Adams, to me, I think was the player of the tournament for the USMNT. His lone mistake of the tournament was the first goal in the Netherlands game. If you ask me, I think he was as close to perfect as you possibly could be in a tournament. I think, after the group stage, a stat came out that he ran the most of any player in the group stage. That's just absolutely the engine on him. But to your point, you get to the Netherlands game, he looked exhausted by halftime. Yunus Musa looked exhausted. You see mistakes coming from Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson, who, again, were having a great tournament up until that point. So I think, to your point, when you look back at it, maybe we invested too much. I think that's a very fair point. I think it was a lot of we want to prove we can play, and we maybe did, right? We proved we can play against England, but is that going to matter when you lose 3-1 in the round of 16? I think that's a very fair point when you look back at it in retrospect like that.
It's hard. I think it's hard, and it's a type of mentality shift that is happening in U.S. soccer, but it's hard to look at the group stages and say, you know what, it's okay for us to not win this game.
Yeah.
right? It's hard as a country for us to look at it and say, like, because we're still trying to prove ourselves. It seems like every time we step on the field versus competition that isn't CONCACAF, we're still trying to prove ourselves. But if you look at it from like I want to win this tournament perspective, I think that that's a different type of mindset, and it kind of sets you up with a different type of strategy. Whether or not they should have done that, hindsight's always 2020. And in the moment, if they did that, I would have been like, "What are we doing? We want to beat England." But looking back at it, the guys were tired, and I think that ultimately cost us more than anything when we played the Netherlands.
Well, so I want to stay in the present for one final question for you with USMNT. And I mean, you're obviously a ex-professional goalkeeper. You've been successful as a goalkeeper. How good is Matt Turner? And like, when I'm a casual fan, I'm not a professional or an ex-professional. When I'm watching Matt Turner, like how I feel like underappreciated he still is, even though he's clearly an elite shot stopper. I think he's really underrated with his feet as well. I think sometimes it looks a little scary when he throws the ball too far out, but he seems to have the game under control in his box.
I mean, you nailed it. I mean, for me, the coolest thing about Matt Turner this entire tournament was that you could just tell that he was very confident in every single thing that he was doing. I will say that like the time when he started dribbling a little bit, he probably got a little bit carried away and kind of picked his head up and was in no man's land. But to be fair, he pulled it off. So no one's talking about it really in a way. But for me, the cool thing about Matt Turner is he's so like he started playing when he was 16, right? And you just look at guys and you could just tell, goalies get better with age, goalies get better with experience. And the cool thing about Matt Turner is he's the number one goalie in the country right now. And you could tell that he gets better with every single game at a high level that he plays.
Yeah.
Right. You could tell that he gets a little bit more comfortable. You could tell that his confidence continues to grow. And I think that that's going to be something pretty cool to track over the next 4 years, because there's a lot of young goalkeepers that are coming on too. So I think that the goalkeeper pool in the U.S. is going to be loaded here in the next World Cup cycle. But Matt's over there in the EPL. It'll be interesting to see, if he's able to steal these minutes, if he's able to start getting minutes, because, the way that he handled this World Cup, his feet were very impressive. I think he made every single save that he could have made. Right. You look at the Netherlands goals. There's really not much to do there. He's strong in the air. He's very dominant in the air. And, just his overall presence was something that if you're a goalkeeper coach, or if you're trying to teach young goalkeepers, that's how you want a goalie to carry himself.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's not screaming at guys. He's doing his job. He's being controlling of the box. And, I have to speak about the goalies, you got to give the defense credit too, because like if we're being completely honest, it wasn't a Matt Turner goalkeeper performance that people are going to be talking about for years to come, like most U.S. goalies, right? Most of the time, US goalies have to make 50 saves just to advance out of the tournament. But everything that Matt did was strong, steady, and the defense did a good job of making his life, relatively a little bit more easy than we're used to seeing out of U.S. goalies in a World Cup.
I mean, 0 goals from the run of play, in the group stage is impressive. I think the back line was very impressive. And then again, what happened with the Netherlands happened, and we can't harp on it too much. It's sad, it's disappointing, but it is what it is. I guess, looking towards the future a little bit, right? 2026, we're qualified, we're in, woohoo, we made it.
How does that work? Does Canada, US, and Mexico all get in?
So so we all get in. I don't know how many more CONCACAF spots are coming in. I feel like they're gonna take it away from UEFA, like maybe 2-3 spots, and give it to us. I don't know.
Yeah, that one's interesting, but whatever. FIFA's a whole nother animal. So
I mean, that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other that's a conversation.
That's a documentary on Netflix, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I've been told to watch it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. But right, like there's a lot of events, I think, leading up from the start of 2023 to when the World Cup is in 2026. You got the U20 World Cup, you got the Olympics, you have, of course, another Gold Cup, another CONCACAF Nations League, and just so many tournaments and competitions and friendlies that'll probably be in between. When you're looking from now until leading into 2026, kind of what's your thought on where the U.S. should try to maybe prioritize, focus? Like, what do you want to see from specific players, or just kind of general thoughts about the build up to 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think that stepping it up. I read a Taylor Twellman tweet the other day, and just talking about how we need to step it up in competition consistently. I think that you really saw when we played the Netherlands, you kind of saw that, right? Like, it was like, oh, we're not playing the teams that we're used to playing right now. We're not playing the same level that we're used to playing. This is a big step up in competition.
Yeah.
And I think that getting those types of games in consistently will help this group. And I really think, they they had an identity this tournament, but I really think kind of reestablishing the identity that, you know, we're going to find systems. You don't need to necessarily stick to one system, but we need to find ways to play that continually get our best players on the field, or like we're able to adapt to different situations. So trying to figure out how to play in different styles as well, and being comfortable playing different ways.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, everybody's talking about it. We need to find a 9, right? I mean, we have 4 years. We have 4 years and 4 years more of development to find a 9 that can be dominant and take over a game, because you're not going to win a World Cup. You're not going to make noise in these tournaments if you don't have a guy that's dominant and putting the ball in the back of the net. And that's not, you know, I thought Josh Sargent had an incredible tournament, and him being hurt was, you know, was huge. It was huge versus the Netherlands. It hurt us a ton. The way he plays and just the way his hold-up play is and the way he battles with center backs, it hurt us a ton not to have him. And, you know, it's nothing against any of the other guys, but you need a guy that's dominant if you're going to make a run in these tournaments, and we need to find a 9. Hopefully, you know, someone's developing them somewhere. I'm sure they are. But, you know, hopefully those are the things that we see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I fully agree with you. The 9 is needed. The 9 and just a dude that could possibly scare a center back pairing, I think, was definitely the biggest.
We just need a dude. That's what I keep saying. Everyone's like, "What's wrong with the U.S.?" I'm like, "We just need a dude.
We just need a dude.
We need a dude. Like, we need the dude. When you put the ball in the box, like, he's gonna score. He's gonna cause problems. Like, we need a dude, and that's what we're missing.
Hey, it doesn't need to be Mbappe, but you know, it's just
it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. Final question for me, and then I will let you get back to everything you got going on today. Just shifting from the World Cup to MLS, just obviously there's a lot of storylines going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. Is there anything that you're just kind of looking forward to, or you're kind of keep an eye on throughout this MLS offseason?
For me, I just like to watch the free agents, to be honest. You know, those are a lot of buddies that have been around for a long time. And I know that a lot of teams use free agents a little bit differently, whether it's getting like a solid locker room presence guy or getting a guy that's going to contribute serious minutes. So I like to just keep an eye on free agency, because, you know, that was something that we fought for a really long time with the CBAs. And it's always fun for me to kind of see where my buddies decide they want to end up going. But no, I mean, I know Portland just signed a big player, and for them to spend that type of money and for them to spend that type of transfer fee on a younger guy, you know, I'm excited to see how he kind of gels in and fits with everybody, because they're a little bit older over there, but they're slowly starting to get this youth movement in, and they're doing it with some pretty expensive and some pretty serious players. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. And, you know, I know everybody's pretty excited about him over there. So those are probably the two things I'll be keeping my eye on. And, you know, of course, I'll be watching the goalies, just because those are my, you know, I'm a big GK Union guy, so I'm team goalie. So I'll be seeing how everyone's doing in net as well.
I love the goalkeeper union. Most of the guys that agree to come on the podcast, they're goalkeepers, right? I've had Evan Loro on, Zach Steffen on. I've had Bobby Edwards on. I'm trying to think of, I've had Stephen Fry on. Like, a lot of these guys are just like, they love goalkeepers, and you guys
easy to talk to, you know, just good human beings.
I've also been told by some goalkeepers that you guys are the craziest on the soccer field, but easy to talk to.
Right. Well, that's what everybody says. And there's definitely some truth to that, but you know, when you think about it, we're kind of just in our own little world for a majority of the entirety of our lives if we're playing soccer. So you got to get a little bit crazy if you're standing by yourself for most of the time.
Hey, crazy is a good thing.
There you go.
All right. But Jeff, I'll let you plug everything you got going on one more time. But I seriously want to, you know, thank you for coming on and chatting some USMNT with me.
No, I appreciate it, man. And listen, you're a Jets fan, so listen, smack apparel if you're a fellow Jets fan, or if you're a fan of anything else in the sports world. But no, I mean, just another quick shout out to Renegade GK. It's something that I'm excited to be diving in and working with. And, you know, it's a fun company that we're going to really try to have some good gloves out there and some good products and some cool stuff coming out soon. So if you're a goalkeeper, man, just keep us in mind. And that's Renegade GK. And I appreciate the time, man. It was fun. It was fun jumping on.
No, of course. Anyone watching, listening to this, thank you so much. And we'll check you guys out next week.